Welcome back to Stamping at the Warren, and I'm Kim Tolton, and today I'm going to be showing you this watercolor technique, and it also incorporates some masking as well. There is quite a few products, but most of them I would suspect are in your craft stash or pretty much there, and I think if you're making a special card, then you know it doesn't really matter, does it? I've forgotten to pick up my birthday stamp, which came from the Builder birthday, so forgive me for that, but you'll be able to pop a sentiment on. The main thing I want to show you today is the technique. So to start off with, we're going to do the card base, because obviously we want to put that safely to one side. So for that I'm using Soft Sky, just so it gives a hint of gentle colour. So just pop it, the A4 sheet of Soft Sky cardstock, into your stamping trimmer, and then just move it along to the 10.5 centimetres and trim. Put your cutting blade right out the way, and then rotate and score at 14.9. That little extra centimetre just gives you the turnover and stops it being a wonky edge. So just fold and burnish, and then we've got two pieces of Whisper White cardstock here, measuring 14 by 10.1 centimetres, and I'm going to pop the first one inside straight away, and just because I know my card will still be damp when I get to the end, and so this is a little bit you just pop inside so you can write on for your greeting, and then we can pop that to one side nice and safe and sound. And we're going to be working on this panel here, which is the same size. So the other products that you're going to need is going to be your embossing products. So you'll need a heat tool, and you're going to need some clear embossing powder, your Versamark ink pad, your embossing buddy, and a craft mat just to protect your work surface. And then from a stamp perspective, you want Lovely as a Tree, and I'm going to be using the 4 Trees stamp. And then the main stamp is from Country Living, and I'm using the truck one today. So the first thing that you want to do before you start doing anything else is to make a mask. This uses a masking technique, and that's what gives you the trees in the background as opposed to being seen over the top. So to do that, all you have to do is, with a rectangular, I've actually made mine of 2 pieces of my post-it notes, because I didn't have the large size. So I've stamped onto post-it notes, and you want to ensure that there's a piece of sticky at least at one end, and then I've just roughly stamped the stamp, and then this will then create your mask, which when we get to that we will do that one. First of all, you want to get the embossed image done first. So bring in your Versamark, and you just want to get your embossing buddy, and before we stamp, go all the way over with your embossing buddy, and this will help to get all the static off of the card, so you don't end up with all oddments of little dots of powder in places you don't want them. And then I've got a glitter tray here that we'll be using. So let's ink up the stamp with Versamark. Give it a really good ink up. It often comes off off of the stamp, off of the block, because it is so sticky. So all I do is I get a little pen and I just, in a gap somewhere, poke it back down and you're fine, you're good to go. And then stamp that towards the bottom section of this panel of card. Now I'm doubly protecting my work surface today because I know it's going to get very watery, and I can see that that image has come out. Pop that in my little glitter tray, get my clear embossing powder. I did try it with white and other colours of embossing powder. I actually quite liked the effect of the clear. Give it a bit of a shake to make sure you've got that whole image done. Shake off the excess, turn it over and give it a sharp wrap on the back, and then just decant your embossing powder back in, just so we don't end up with embossing powder everywhere. And bring in your heat tool, and you're just going to want to let this warm up just for a few seconds, and then it will just heat up the embossing powder nice and quickly. Don't worry about it starting to curl, because as we work with the watercolour, you will find that the cardstock flattens back out again. And just slowly, tiny little circles, work your way round, waiting for each section to just melt. It's just glue really that you're melting up. Make sure everything's nicely melted, and the easiest way to check is just to pick it up, and if it shines all over, you're there. We can put that over there. Right, so rest of your products that we need. These are the ink pads that we're going to be using. So Emerald Envy, there should be another green in there, and Cucumber Crush. And then for the actual van itself, we're using Soft Suede and Choc Chip, and then we're going to be using Early Espresso for any additional stamping or colouring work that we want. Right, so here we go. Now this is just on to Whisper White cardstock, so no, so long as you don't get this really wet, it's going to be fine. It's only if you apply too much water that you start getting into trouble. So how we do this, if you haven't done it before, we're going to start with Soft Suede, which is the lighter colour. You're going to squidge your ink pad between thumb and fingers really hard, and then when you open up, you'll find that the ink has transferred into the well here. So you might just want to pop a single drop of water just in the corner here, and from there you can start picking up ink. If your brush rather starts to get too wet, just wipe it off on that paper there. And I'm doing this whole thing, try and make sure you can see. I'm going to go all over just with the one Soft Suede, and you'll see how all of a sudden the image starts to come to life. And it's when we go back and do all the shadings that the detail really starts to show. The whole image you're just going to do with the one colour, obviously not the windows, but everything else. And you can see how the ink resists the clear embossing. Now when I tried this with white embossing powder, I found that it stained the embossed image, so I decided not to go with that. Now you could put some 50% rubbing alcohol into this. I'm taking you through the process quite quickly, but obviously you would be able to stop and add additional colour and let it dry, then add some more colour, let it dry. I can't possibly expect you to be sitting here for all that time, so I'm just going to show you the principle, and then it is down to you to have a good play with what is just a fabulous technique. Now this does dry very quickly, but you do want to try and ensure that each layer dries before you move on to the next, and that then just ensures that you don't get too much warping of your cardstock. And you just want to go, because this is clear, you just want to take it just slightly over the edge, only a little, so that you get a bit more definition around everything, so as opposed to just keeping it all on the inside. And then you can see as that colour builds that more and more definition starts to show. So that's the first colour on there, and then second colour is going to be choc chip. So we do exactly the same, we give it a good squeege, and then pick up some of the choc chip ink, and again this is where you start adding in your highlights. So this is where you really start to just add a bit more colour. And shadings. So just adding in, and it gives you a bit more interest on the cab itself. I'm not adding any extra water here. You just want to make sure you're trying to capture the light coming from one angle. Just decide where your light is coming from. And just go with a very gentle touch here. That will help to define where your lights are. And just dilute that colour out where you don't want it to be intense. And I'm not going to take all the time, but for the tyres I actually use my Stampin' Right markers. Which highlighted those tyres quite nicely, and also with the hubs on the wheel. Right, so do a bit of grass, and these colours change as the cardstock dries. And here we just gonna go. Looks bright, stick with it, don't panic. Give a nice watercolour wash, just using residual ink. That's the freedom of watercolour. You can even do that colour into windows. And as you get more water, and there is a reason, because we're going to have trees in the background. I'm just going to put a little drop of water in there just to dilute that a little bit more. Then a little bit of Emerald Envy, and this will just give a bit more definition to the grass. And because we've applied that watercolour wash, again it's not going to be too intense once it's seen. And you can take colour off using your aqua painter, and then just finally add a bit more definition in. And when that dries, that will be lovely. Now I'm going to blot mine, don't go, with a piece of kitchen towel, just because I want to show you the masking technique. And this will show you just how much the colour changes as cardstock dries. So you can already see there the real difference. Okay. So what we now want to do is put our trees in there. If you was to stamp your trees straight on, you would either have them perched up the top here, or you'd put them on the side, but by doing this it gives a much more natural feel to the whole thing. So you just want to put your cutout mask, lay it down over the image that you have been watercolouring. Because you've got that sticky edge on there, it pretty much stays on. It would stay on better if it was completely dry, which it isn't, so you know, don't worry too much about what you see in there. And then I want my tree, there it is, and I'm going to use early espresso for this. We're actually going to stamp a couple of times. So we're going to go once here, okay, ink up again, and then just take it up and back a little bit more, there, and you can see where it's stamped onto the mask. If you lift that away, you can see there that you have got your trees in the background. Now I'm just going to get behind me to grab a pen. So I've just grabbed my Stampin' Right marker, and that's because this is an clear emboss resist, it doesn't come in as closely. So all you do is you pop your stems in where they're missing, and you're done. That's it. So you've got your trees in the background, you've got definition to your grass on the watercolour here, and again up here. If you wanted to, you could put some pink or some orange into the sky, or even some blue in the sky if you wanted to, but once this is dry that will be just hunky-dory. So I'm going to use my Tombow, and you want to make sure you've got good coverage of your Tombow. It is the best thing to use for cards that have been watercoloured. If you're using Whisper White as your base for watercolour, then don't saturate the cardstock, otherwise you will end up in trouble with everything warping. Take that away now. And there you can see it's gone down quite flat, and that will lighten up quite considerably as it completely dries. There you are, and that's ready just to have a birthday or whatever sentiment. I'm going to leave this one blank just because I can and it allows me the freedom to then put a sentiment in when I'm ready for this card to be used for somebody. It does make a great masculine card, but equally it would work just as well if you know someone who's into horse riding and does the rounds to horse shows, you know, so it's pretty unisex really. And that is it for today. The last bit of little embellishment is my Emerald Envy, just to keep it all together. Just a little bit of solid baker's twine. Solid baker's twine just means it's all one colour. Somebody did ask me the question, what is solid baker's twine? What's the difference? What's the thing with this solid baker's twine? It just differentiates it from a bicolour. That's all. And just shorten that up. Bum bum bum. Get my scissors, and you just want a little glue dot. It would look equally nice with linen thread. That would look really cool because it's quite an organic card. Now your little glue dot is bigger than the knot on your bow, just squidge it together and that will be fine, and then you can pop your linen thread down. Not linen thread, that's me talking about linen thread. Put your baker's twine down and just trim it to size. And I quite like that bit there. And that just ties in all the colours that we've used. And that's it. So let me know how you get on with this technique. Let me know if you like using a coloured or metallic embossing powder for this technique, or whether you quite liked the white or the clear. Let me know what your findings are, and I look forward to seeing you and speaking to you again very shortly. And thank you for taking the time for watching. All of my social media information is in the show more section under today's video, including links to my online store and my blog. And if you click on the little eye icon in the top right corner, a little card will pop up. If you click on there, it will take you straight through to today's blog post as well. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to follow my Pinterest community board if you would like to start pinning on there. Otherwise you can just enjoy sharing, you know, saving images of the hundreds of Stampin' Up creative ideas that were on the board. Thank you again, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Ta-ta for now.